Hello, hello. Welcome to today's weekend fly tying stream. Today we're going to finish the Gordon, as you can see here, and let's work. Uh, if you enjoy what you see here, just remember you can head on over to my Instagram. It's at justwondering.brad, and if you want to help support the channel or purchase any of the flies you see me tie here, you can check out my Etsy shop, Studio1213 on Etsy. Let's zoom in. All right, so here's the Gordon that we started last week. Today we're going to tie on the wings and finish up the fly. As usual, I'm switching to black for the head. Just going to start my thread here. So the unique thing about the Gordon is it's one of those flies that has an asymmetric wing, underwing. So it is one tippet and one golden pheasant sword feather. It's kind of these red feathers that come around the base of the tail, around the base of the tail. And this actually sword feather is a recycled feather. A lot of the feathers I use are recycled from other flies that either didn't turn out the way I liked, or took apart for other reasons. So the tippet I'm going to repair in my usual fashion. I'm trying to line up the bar, the first bar with the butt, and I'm just going to trim it, give it a little bit of trim here just so I don't have so much feather overhanging. I'm going to peel away some of the fibers, and I'm just going to take away fibers until I get it to the point where I'm going to tie it in. So that looks pretty good. And then, as usual, because I don't want the tippet sticking out over the top of the wing, I'm going to take off most, if not all, of the top fibers from the wing. So looks like that. I'll sit like this, and it won't be too tall. Now, the challenge with asymmetric wings, of course, is that they don't balance, or they have a weird balance, compared to a symmetric underwing. I'm just going to show my thread right at that tying point. Going to get my wax ready because, of course, I'm going to wax up my thread so to help hold the wing in place. Now, because the sword is longer and pointier, I'm actually going to leave it a little bit longer than the tippet. So a little tie in just like this. And hopefully these will balance okay. Sword feathers tend to be pretty. The sword feathers tend to be pretty stiff, so hopefully it'll balance okay, but we'll see. So just going to tie it in there. That actually looks pretty okay. Of course, going to wax my thread. Now, one thing I may have to do here is take it off and just adjust the angle. No, that actually looks okay. Sword feather may be a little bit long for my tastes here, but it does line up pretty well there. Um, I don't want this. I want this to be a little bit lower, just so it doesn't get buried in the wing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce just a gentle kind of downward kink in the feather stem here. There you can see. And that'll just help it ride. Um, and the reason why this little bit of kink there will be necessary is just um, because of the hackles here. The hackles tend to push the underwing and the whole wing, in fact, up, and so you can compensate just a little bit by shaping the underwing a little bit. And that actually ends up with a neater, slightly neater tie-in as well. So there we go. That looks just about right. So I'm going to trim these and bind down buttons all the way to the front. Now, the other thing that goes into the underwing that makes the Gordon a little bit unusual is peacock curl. I'm only going to put maybe 2 to 4 pieces of peacock curl in the underwing. If I were tying this as a fishing fly, I might put more, just so that the peacock could have more impact. But because this fly is going in the display box, I just kind of want that hint of peacock. So this one. And I want to use the fairly fine peacock curl from close to the eye. One, that's got the best color, and two, because it's finer, it ties in a little bit easier. It's also not quite as stiff and difficult to manage. It'll flow with the wing better. So we'll take 2 from each side as if we were tying in a wing. Keeping that left and right. I'm just going to tie them in alongside the wing here. You have to be somewhat careful with any kind of hurl, tying it in like this, because you have to remember that hurl has that T-shaped cross section that we talked about last week. And that T-shaped cross section can, force the hurl to behave somewhat erratically when tied in. It certainly means that, if you can, you want to make sure that the T-shaped cross section is going in the same direction for both sides. Just gonna tie that in there. There we go. So just gonna tie that in alongside the wing. Then I'm just gonna bind it down. firm wraps forward. Trim it. So far, so good. Next, we're going to marry up the wing. So the wing is composed of bustard, swan dyed light blue, light green, red claret, and Amherst pheasant. Um, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the wing fairly simple. Uh, Probably keep the colors kind of large in the larger chunks and not mix them too much. What I am going to do is I'm going to put a strip of bustard in between each, and then as usual, I'll put the pheasant, the Lady Amherst pheasant, on top as one large chunk. And that's again, uh, it's nice to have that kind of large chunk of neutral on top of the wing. Um, there's no, at least I don't think there is there's no bronze mallard roof. Um, so there's nothing to cover it up, but there is going to be a topping over top, and so it'll offer kind of like that nice kind of roof-like effect, I guess. In the absence of the bronze mallard. All right. So I just want to I want to check something in this recipe that I have, because I am not 100% certain that I grabbed the recipe that I wanted. Fortunately, the body for most of these recipes are all the same, but let me just check and make sure I got this right. Okay, yeah, I did. Here we go. Okay, so let's see. As usual, we're going to marry one side of the wing and then we'll marry the other. And so that way, and I always do it that way because, maybe you don't like the mix that you've achieved in one wing. By marrying the one complete wing, then you can see, you know, what that wing will look like without, having married two wings and then deciding that you don't like it. So, um, the question is how many fibers of each? So I know that the the fibers of this particular pheasant or bustard rather is are fairly robust. They're a little bit thicker fibers than the turkey that I have. So I'm going to do 4 fibers of the bustard, but I think I'm going to do 5 fibers each of the turkeys. So, and we'll build this blue green claret. I think so. I'll start with blue. Okay. So my blue. Oop, and we'll marry in the bustard. Now, as you can see, I've married in all 4 fibers of the bustard. All I do then is once they're married, I just take my bodkin, take 2 fibers away. Then grab my green. I don't like that green. I didn't like that green slip for a number of reasons. The primary one being the tips were a little bit ratty. So let me grab another slip of green. So this one's a little bit better. I do apologize if I seem a little bit out of it today. I've got a pretty good eye strain headache going on. My job, my day job or my normal job requires me to look at electronic records for most of the day, and so they just switched style, or they've introduced a new style of electronic records. And I don't know what it is about them, but you have to read through like an entire questionnaire before you actually get to the result that you are looking for. And I know for a number of us who work at this place, that's been putting a lot of extra strain on our eyes. So I've got a pretty good eye strain headache going on. Um, but I think that has more to do with looking at the computer screen, because I noticed that looking at, so for example, the fly in front of me here, um, I don't feel like I'm straining my eyes, which is good. Um, yeah, otherwise there wouldn't be a stream today, frankly. All right, so there's the colored turkey and the um, Bustard segment. Uh, Let me add the Amherst because my opinion may change, but I think I'm liking what I'm seeing so far. And I really like Lady Amherst pheasant in wings because it's a very striking material. Uh, let's see. So this is what the wing looks like. Just and frankly, a wing mixed to this level is, I don't know. It's something you can never go wrong with, right? You don't need to go super complicated in a wing to have a striking or good looking wing. So I think um, I'm really okay with this level of mixed um, in this wing. Uh, the other thing is uh, you know um, if you go more complex, uh, it does take away from the visual impact. So having the colored turkey all in large segments like this, those colors have a lot more impact than if I were to, do single fibers of each color. Because then each fiber itself not only doesn't have less impact on its own, but then also you have to think like if you were to view this fly from like arm's length away, right? What impact would having the blue and the green mixed together? What color does that look like? Because at an arm's length away, those colors will start to appear mixed. So you'll end up with kind of in the case of like blue and green, you'll end up with kind of like a turquoise or an aqua color. You know, um, Now there are some cool effects that you can get. So if you were to mix, say, um, the the green and the claret together, then you kind of end up with this kind of cool um, color change effect where depending on like what angle you hold the fly, the color kind of very uh, vacillates between claret and green. Um, but in the case of this fly, because it's got three colors, I think holding them or keeping them in large chunks like this actually heightens the impact of each color. Uh, so I'm gonna marry up the other wing. We'll put it on the fly. Maybe we won't. Maybe we'll like it. Maybe we won't. But I think this is probably the way to go. All right. What do I need? I need 5 fibers here. Kind of running out of this light blue. Um, Now I have to say about the stream time. So I've been streaming. This is like what, the third week or so, fourth week, streaming at this time on Wednesdays. And I've actually been quite gratified to see the number of people who have been watching live. I really appreciate the views, uh, but it's not actually changed that much from when I was doing it on Saturdays. Then of course the number of views after the live stream, so of the recording, that's been pretty outstanding as well. So I think this is probably the time that I'll be streaming from now on as long as I'm working, Saturdays and Sundays. Again, my preference would be to stream on Saturday, but simply because I'm working on Saturday and Sundays, Wednesdays are probably my next best bet. Wednesdays probably, or maybe some Thursdays. It just depends on how busy my Wednesday is. Like I said, I try uh, whenever I can. I try to volunteer on Wednesdays. Um, so, or I should say, I shouldn't say that. I should say if I'm going to volunteer during the week, Wednesdays is the day that I'm going to volunteer. So some weeks it may be on Thursdays that we have the stream, but most weeks I anticipate streaming on Wednesday. So, hmm. All right. Man, what is it with this Lady Amherst? Not a huge fan. Come on, man. Just give me 5 fibers in a row. Um, there we go. Hopefully. This Lady Amherst is a little bit chewed up on one side, and unfortunately, that's the side that I need. It's otherwise very nice quality, which is why I persist on using it. Um, but some of the tips are just a little bit. All right. So there's the far wing. Uh, as usual, I'm going to trim the butt ends just so that they are a little bit more even on both wings. And I'm going to put the wings back to back. Sure the tips are aligned. All right. So I'm going to pitch the wing. Pinch the wing. Then apply a little bit of saliva. You could use water if you want, but saliva is handy, cheap. And then soft loop. So I'm going to do a pinched soft loop. So I'm pinching the soft loop in between my fingers here. And then I'm going to just gently lift up the wing and the butts. And that'll help push the. So I'm going for compression right here. So you can see the compression. And as I'm lifting the butts, what I'm doing is essentially I'm compressing the wing using my fingers rather than the thread. And what that does is it makes sure that the wing compresses evenly. And in a kind of vertical fashion. Because you don't want the wing it has to do with the physics of wrapping thread. So as you wrap thread, what you're doing essentially is you're pulling the wing that way or in the direction that you're wrapping the thread. Um, and so by using your fingers to compress the wing instead of the thread, you're removing that kind of, or you're minimizing that torque that the thread is implying on the wing. Okay. And that's a pretty good wing set, I would say. It's not quite centered on top, so I'm actually undo the thread. Just again, pinch the, and then it's just using the weight of the thread and the action of lifting the butts. Okay, just gonna do one more. Now there are all sorts of like devices people have come up with for doing this. Frankly, fingers in the weight of the bodkin or bobbin uh, seems to be sufficient. Um, it's you could use a tool to do that, but the weight of the bobbin is fine. It's just removing that again, wrapping that the torque that you get from wrapping thread. I do not like the way that the far wing is setting, because it's not. What's happening is it's setting inside of the. Some of the hurl is getting in the way of it setting, correctly or where in the manner that I would like it to. So, you know, you don't get it right the first time every time. Yeah, unfortunately. But it's just a matter of playing around with it till it does what you want. That's a little bit better. Yeah, that's definitely better. Okay. Now I'm going to pinch it tightly right behind the tie-in point. I'm going to give it a couple of firm wraps of thread. Just pinching it at that tie-in point, just make sure that the wing doesn't roll over some more. Because again, it's just held on by a couple of those soft wraps. So once you start wrapping firmly, again, you're applying that rotational torque to the wing. Just going to preen the wing a little bit. I'm going to give it a trim. I'm just going to do this in small stages. All right. So that looks pretty good. Now, of course, I'm going to wax my thread. So I got my wax here. Wax my thread. Holding it in place again some more. Just going to spiral my wax thread through the butt ends. So I'm not doing tight wraps just yet. So I'm going to trim this to a taper a little bit more. And then I'm just going to rotate the wing on top of the hook, make sure it's sitting nice and neat on top. Preen it out so it looks pretty. Has a nice curvature. There we go. So that's the wing set. Now, Fortunately, the Gordon is pretty simple from here on out. It has jungle cock cheeks and a topping overall. And let me grab. I might have some jungle cock already. Some split jungle cock. I think these are approximately opposite. Yeah, unfortunately, they both have splits, but that's okay. Um, I know people kind of look for like the perfect jungle cock eyes, but the reality is this is a natural material. It's going to be imperfect. I'm going to tie because the jungle cock is the only side, it's the only cheek. I'm going to tie it just a little bit long. I'm going to tie it as low as I can get it, but might not be perfect. Now, when I'm tying the jungle cock in, I'm tying it in by a little bit of the fluff. ASDF. I usually try to start around 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Standard Time in the U.S. So for Switzerland, not 100% certain what that would be, but um, yeah. So 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, U.S. Eastern Standard Time. So like that. So that's the what is the jungle cockeye? Just trim the ends here. Let's see. I think what Switzerland is probably. Are you guys 6 hours ahead of us? Um, I'll have to look that up. But 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, U.S. Eastern Standard Time. Uh, if you go to my Instagram, if it's anything different, um, I will try to post that in my. Okay, okay, great. Yeah, I don't normally post, you know, in my Instagram when I'm going to go live, unless it's vastly different than normal. All right. Yeah. Unfortunately, like Instagram is my primary social media for fly tying. Um, Funny story about social media. One of my internships that I've done for public health has been to do the social media work for a health communications group. And one of the social medias that I've been working on has been Twitter. And the only thing I've learned from this internship is that I absolutely hate Twitter. Um, I can see its value, certainly for doing certain things, but from a communications standpoint, uh, when you're trying to communicate something that is you know technically, um, and I don't mean like technically, but like of a technical nature, it is certainly difficult. No, that doesn't match. I'm looking for a paler crust. Is this a slightly paler crust? Yeah. So I don't use Twitter. That is the long way of saying I don't use Twitter. Um, but the thing about Instagram is when you're trying to communicate things, last minute or on short notice, Instagram's not exactly the best place for that either. So, but I do if I'm doing something out of the ordinary, I will post it on my Instagram stories. Um, so I'm just trying to size this up here. Um, don't want the throat to get caught in it. Just kind of rotate that out onto the top. I'd say that's a pretty good crust. All right, so let's see. Something I am gonna do is this got a stray fiber here. Just pull that off. Turn that back on. Gonna wax my thread. All right. So that is crest mounted. Now this does have a black wool head. So I'm just going to trim the butt end of the crest, tie it down with a few more firm thread wraps. Now, of course, instead of wool, so this is black cobbler's wax. Sorry, that's probably backwards. But black cobbler's wax. This is Kelson's formula, and my particular batch of wax is made by Bill Bailey. Um, but you can find the description. I don't know the exact recipe because I didn't make it, but uh, this is cobbler's wax as described by Kelson. So I like the way that wing sets. You know, for a fishing fly, I probably just slap all this on. But for a display fly, what I'm looking for is the ability to see every component that went into the wing. So, I can see the tippet, I can see the sword, I can see the peacock, I can see, all the different materials. So that is looking good. And speaking of Bill Bailey, instead of black wool, I'm going to be using black mohair dubbing. Um, Bill Bailey also dyes this. I have unfortunately never met Bill Bailey, but from all accounts, he's a nice guy, and he does some really great work. He dyes a lot of the so like the Berlin wool, the mohair, and the pig's wool that John McLean sells on feathersmt.com are all dyed by Bill Bailey. Um, he also makes the cobbler's wax, both the black cobbler's wax and the white cobbler's wax uh, that uh, um, that John sells. And I don't know if he dyes anything else, but yeah, you can. He's on Instagram. You can check him out. I think it's WS Bailey on Instagram. So I'm just gonna dub a very thin and tight black kid or a black mohair head. Build up a little bit of a thread head right at the end. Oop. Clip finish. Just give the head a little bit of trim so it's not too shabby. All right, and there we go. So that we have the Gordon. Um, I like the look of this fly. Like I said last week, I've never tied this fly before, so um, it's been kind of nice to see it, and I really appreciate its colors. I think I've said this before, but claret is very possibly one of my favorite colors. Oop, there we go. Used in classic salmon flies. Um, so this has a lot of claret in it. So of course, find it quite attractive. So, but it's very unique. Very few flies that I know. So some of the blacker flies have asymmetric underwings, but this is one of the few rare ones that occurs, kind of post Blacker, post Francis. Uh, Maybe toll free. I don't know. I haven't. Unlike a lot of classic salmon fly tires, I don't have a categorical memory of all the recipes. So, but hope you enjoyed that. Uh, like I said, if you want to see more of my work, you can check out the Instagram at justwondering.brad. And if you want to purchase any of the flies you've seen me tie on the stream, you can and support the channel. You can check out my Etsy shop at Studio1213. Unfortunately, right now I am only shipping to the United States. I think I keep forgetting to make this mention each week, but just due to the current global conditions and the shipping times. I did early on in the pandemic try to ship one to, I think, Belgium, and it took it something like 10 weeks to get there, which is ridiculous. But so right now I'm only shipping to the US simply for that reason. Normally, I would be happy to offer international shipping. It's just a little bit hard. Also, it's a little bit hard for me to guarantee international shipping because you never know with customs and things. So, um, but anyway, thanks for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed today's stream. And next week, haven't decided what we'll do next week, but we'll tie some more flies. So, thanks for hanging out, and hope everybody is staying healthy and safe. And take care.